All right. Hey, everybody.
Hi, Andreas.
Welcome.
Yeah,
Hey, Arockia and Santiago. Um, I'm sorry it was the wrong image in the beginning. We're at number two here. Day in the life of a data engineer. And yeah, let's chat this time about what typically the things that data engineers do, what we know from our experience working as data engineers. And having people coming in, and we're also there should be going out an email in a sec, so to let more people know that we're live. Yeah, welcome.
yeah,
I also, for everybody in the chat, if you have questions, drop them in the chat. We're here to help you. Arockia and Santiago are also the coaches in my coaching program, where we basically coach together, and where you can book sessions with them. And they're very experienced as engineers and have worked with many companies. So yeah, let's just start, guys. For me, whenever I think like what's the day in the life, for me, it was always I'm always thinking of when I came to the office. What was the first thing that I did? And I was working in a corporate environment, so sometimes it was checking the emails, but most of the time it was like going on the systems, checking out the dashboards, looking if all the jobs ran, if there were some problems with the data, if there was some latency and so on. I don't know, like for you, what's the first thing for you guys that when
yeah.
you
In
start
my
your day?
case was in my case was completely different because I started like remote.
Mm,
So the first time I went to the office was like 6 months later. So everything was like trying to get used to the environment, how to set up the notebook that the company provides, and yeah, and I was coming from medicine, so it was a total new world for me.
mm,
And yeah, I had to like put all the things together, like Python, going with the stakeholders, and having to learn. I had to learn a lot about the company on that time. And yeah, it was like a first job, but with a lot of knowledge, like getting concepts, learning about governance, data management. It was tough,
mm.
but it was funny at the end.
Yeah, okay. But like, were there some routines in the like in the first job? Were there some routines that you did every day? Like,
I was like more involved with the design of the warehouse because this first company was acquiring two another companies. It was an internet service provider here, so they also bought cable TV and also mobile phones.
mm,
So it was trying to merge everything in one data warehouse, and they were almost the same clients, but with different ways of putting all them together. So the CRMs were kind of different between the companies, and it was all about the design of that warehouse and also going to the cloud.
mm,
So it was like learning and like designing the best architecture for like lifting everything to the cloud.
mm,
So every day was kind of a mix between learning tools from cloud and also like having long sessions on which are the business metrics and KPIs for designing the architecture.
mm. Okay for you?
Yeah, yeah. By me, Andreas, as you mentioned, nowadays it is checking the status of the pipelines. I started my data career in in like 2012. So initially, when I started, like everyone, I have this dream. Every day I go to office. Every day I start my work. I will plan my day. So this is how it started when I started my career. Then later I realized this is not the way everyone works, because since then my routine changed completely. Every morning when I open my laptop or PC, I immediately check whether there are any issues with the pipelines, if everything
Uh,
runs well. Unless until it is really critical, I won't set up an email. So like every morning, I check I check initially if my pipelines run everything without any issues, and the upstream and downstream systems, data delivery or data reception, it's working fine. And then I check the general history, maybe in Grafana dashboard.
mm,
Like most recently, in like AWS CloudWatch is my friend for a long time now. So yeah, this is how I start. Then I would take some 5 minutes to check my calendar, and especially block 2 to 3 hours, something like
mm,
core working hours, because when you are working in a full time role, I have never achieved like 5 hours like working. I mean, like purely coding for a new functionality as a data engineer. It was really difficult. So
mm,
I try to like block my calendar, because when you are full time employee, there are like ad hoc meetings, sprint planning, sprint retrospectives, and so on. So planning my day accordingly so that I code at least 3 hours a day for the new projects or the new features. Then comes other parts like code review, documentation, and so on.
mm. Yeah, for me it was always difficult to like plan the whole day or set some stuff apart. Or so sometimes apart from the whole collaboration thing. What I personally always hated was the like when people want to do daily stand-ups, because I always felt like, okay, now I'm here. Now I'm going through everything, and does everything work? Yes, okay, it works. So you can start developing instead of fixing some bugs, fixing some issues, and then daily stand-up. And it's like, oh, please.
Uh, I really enjoyed the quote from Arockia. I had a dream, but yeah, it was just a dream. Actually, I read a lot about how agile and data engineering merge, and it's almost impossible to go with because some tasks are perhaps pretty easy, like we talked in the last episode, like making connectors through social media APIs. Yeah, you can say, yeah, I connect this, I am retrieving the data, this is done.
Mm,
But then when you when you get your hands dirty with data and you say, is this the real data that I want? Is this the real quality of the data? And that is a rabbit hole. You can
yeah.
like you can like yeah, make that better every day, every time. And perhaps nowadays I'm having a trouble with some data because they need the historical data, but the way it is produced, they have like different IDs per iteration. So it's super difficult to retrieve the historical data without like making a process that takes a lot. So
Mm,
it's I'm like struggling a lot there. So when they say, yeah, this is done, yes, it's partially done, but it's super difficult to track that and go with agile and plan everything. That's why also it's kind of difficult to say uh, a daily routine. It's I don't know if it is possible. It's like always is happening something.
mm. Uh, It depends on the setup, I think, right? In which part of the company, on which projects you're working, and what are your responsibilities. If you're just like an ETL developer, or like developing on like a one-dimensional thing, then I guess you can plan your days a lot. But like for if you're in a situation where you're talking to stakeholders and where you gather requirements and so on, that there's all the time stuff coming in, right?
Yeah, I can completely relate to that because in my past four full-time jobs, I switched around 4 to 5 jobs in Germany over the past 10 years, full-time jobs. Every company use this, sprint
Mm,
planning. The sprint for 2 weeks, like software development. So they really stick to it. So in most of the companies, we follow this pattern, like sprint for 2 weeks. Initially, we have sprint planning. We play this planning poker where everyone give points for every ticket. We plan for at least for half of the sprint. That is the beauty of data engineering. You can't
yeah,
predict. It's like unpredictable. Sometimes pipeline will break down and it may take like a day or two to fix it properly. So we plan for half of the time. So once the sprint is over, we have retrospective, what went wrong, what should have been done right. So I kind of feel in Germany it is becoming a norm, especially with these mid-sized
mm,
companies. Yeah, so you need to solidly dedicate, I would say 2 to 3 hours per week. No, 2 to 3 hours is much less, probably 4 hours per week, especially to discuss with teams, product owner, and like planning taking tickets into the sprint, and for this kind of discussions, and also for pair
yeah.
programming.
But if, I always find this difficult and annoying to like spend so much time on organization. Right? Why not
Mhm.
just okay? You have your I don't know. Back in the day, we used Azure DevOps for the user stories and for the basically the individual tasks, and then you took them with you. But like, I think this should always be something that is quick, right? That we're especially here in Germany, we waste a lot of time on this.
Yeah, the problem I see like everywhere is it is really difficult to predict the impact or the return of investment of data
Mm,
engineering teams or data teams, because you are not working in the front end, or you are not doing some solid like step by step work. So there are a lot of like black box kind of stuff. You can't really explain to the non technical product owner or to someone what you have done to fix this.
true.
Yeah, why it took so long for them. It is like just a ticket. So everyone in the team mentioned like for 3 story points. So eventually they might ask why you took long time to complete this. So this is the main issue why especially these mid-size companies, they push, or even like big companies, they push for this kind of like regular like sprint planning meetings, or like planning poker, and so like such kind of stuff.
Mm,
Yeah. One thing that I try to do, like, every day is different, but I try to like save some time at the end of the day, and try to see what I have done, what I think it's almost already or complete, and try to like uh, push some task for the next day. And also in the morning, like Arockia, try to like perhaps 15 minutes of the starting day, like review everything on the calendar and try to prepare, because as you say, Andrea, sometimes you enter into the void and you are driving your car and you say, yeah, I'm going to tackle this, I'm going to have this finished, and then poof, notification. Why
mm.
are you aren't you here in the meeting? Which
Yeah.
meeting?
Which meeting? I just want to develop something, right? I'm in the middle of something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and it's always like that.
that's true.
Yeah, I actually see there is a huge difference between when you work as like a full-time data engineer and a freelance data engineer. Since the past couple of years, I'm doing freelancing kind of stuff. So though I was a full-time data engineer, I somehow used to manage my schedule. For example, as I mentioned, morning, something like general monitoring, and then we have something like planning, and then daily stand-up, then block at least 1.5 hours for coding. Then in the afternoon, I try to schedule meeting with the stakeholders, something like a code
Mm,
review, pair programming, documentation, and so on, where I feel kind of like not 100% productive. So this is my like daily life in the full time job. But when comes into freelancing, it is like so nice for me. At least I like it very much. like once in a day, in like yeah in my recent project, like once in a day we have a sync where within like 1 or 2 minutes you should tell like what you achieved yesterday, what you want to do
Mm-hmm.
today. Then you are off. You can take your own time. So like very early in the morning I used to put my core working hours where my son is sleeping, so I can just concentrate really on like working for 2 to 3 hours, then attend this sync. Then in the afternoon some core working hours. And especially in the freelancing case, I need to spend some extra time in the evening. For example, I need to fill in this timesheet for billing, and then I need to search for like any additional extra opportunities in the field of data. And then I need to spend some time for learning, so like certification preparation or something like that. And then of course I need to spend some time on something like LinkedIn, where I can comment on some
Mm.
post or like create some posts. So in my personal opinion, I like freelancing way much more, because you have time. Especially companies out there, they don't involve freelancers with the internal stakeholders mostly, because they feel at one point of time, when there is a budget cut, freelancer is the first one who will be getting
Okay,
affected.
well, true.
So they always get the most out of you in terms of building new functionalities, and like they concentrate on making you write documentations, and then you are like good to
Mm.
go.
Yeah, and but then after all, you plan the day, and then something happens in the morning, and then everything is different.
uh, y- yeah, it's data engineering is like that. Actually, that one thing is common. If something is broken, then it actually doesn't matter if you are a freelancer or full-time employee, you need to pitch in.
True.
But what I meant is like you have a little more freedom
Yeah.
when you work as like freelance data engineer.
Mm.
Yeah, but also until we are parents, we don't have any freedom. It's like something is happening always with the kids, or you can plan everything. Sometimes I say, "Oh, this is going to be a great day. I have a lot of focus time. I have no much meetings, just kind of touch points with someone, and everything is perfect." Then the kids start with some illness or something like that. You have to go there, and yeah. And I think also with freelancing, in this time of my life with the small kids, it's super difficult for like plan with them. uh you don't know when they are going to wake up. They don't have this continuous sleep. So now I really enjoy, like, I have kind of I am on the other side. Like, I enjoy the time and the schedule with the company. And and I have now in this particular job, I have the opportunity to build a lot, but also I need to tackle different things outside the data engineering scope, like fully backend, or sometimes like, I know, kind of system designs, but related with backend. And yeah, I enjoy a lot, that, because kind of data engineer kind of tackle, like, you can tackle almost everything from the business logics and goals. And I really enjoy that kind of branch inside data engineering of software engineering. And and I enjoy that a lot. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I always liked that when the when I had days um, where we met with stakeholders, where I could ask questions and we were discussing new features they wanted. They might not have liked it that much because, like as Arockia said, like you always have to play some poker of like how long is this going to take. If you say this is going to be done in 4 weeks and then a bunch of stuff happens, then it's terrible. So it will not happen. But those were actually always fun days to where okay, in the afternoon I have meetings with actually the stakeholders, and not just I'm not just limited to the development and to the fixing of pipelines or the platform, but I can also like work more on the concept, on the conceptual side.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes it's like between these words, it's difficult in data engineering because I know like recently they developed this book of data engineering design patterns,
Mm.
but you don't have usually like a pattern, like easy pattern to follow in every job. Like every job is a new world, and you have to like like invent the wheel and someone then will reuse it. It's
Mm.
like the other way around. So now I'm pretty like into this book. I bought it, and I'm reading. There's a lot of good stuff in there, but it's it's also difficult to say, yeah, I'm kind of between this pattern and this one, and always you have to like dig deeper on the maturity of the company, and perhaps like you're building right now something that will work, and this will work for some couple of years, but sooner you will need to replace or fine tune that,
Mm.
and that's also difficult to plan because inside you know that what you are doing is perhaps going to take 1 month, and you are building this pipeline with, I don't know, incremental loading, and as soon as this is going to get bigger, you need to use a completely different approach. So yeah, how are you going to plan that? For now it's this, then I don't know when, but it's going to be this, and it's difficult. It's difficult.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, again, I highly think this is contextual. For example, for like which type of company we work for. Yeah, for example, I worked for this mid-scale company in one of my past full-time jobs, where there are like a really solid like machine learning team, data engineering team, and business
Mm.
intelligence team. So we have time to do code review. We had time to think about the architecture, and we were doing everything properly, because there are like no high push from the external stakeholders. On the other hand, I was working for a startup in one of my initial jobs in Germany, where I am the first and only like a data engineer, or like database developer. At one point of time, I had this feeling. I wake up every day, I go to office, I need to give them the data for the sales from the previous day. So I like initially, like when I started, there was no automations. So I had to do the automation whenever I get time. Otherwise, I have to manually download the files from the internal portal, put it in the folder, run for example SQL server integration services package, and then deliver the data. This is like 1.5 hours of
Mm.
manual work. So again, in this startup, I felt for 6 months, like, yeah, I'm waking up, going, doing things without any planning, because I get a stakeholder request from everywhere, and then like done with the evening, coming back home, eating, sleeping. So this happened for kind of 6 months until I like automate the stuff properly, and
Yeah.
so like this kind of like context is really important. When working in a well established company, the story is completely different, because the technical manager, if you have a technical manager, he will be really like interested to know whether we are using best practices to push our code before pushing into production through like merge request or pull request. And yeah, we might be having lot of corrections. I have seen this end as well as I have seen the other end,
Mm.
where no one cares about the code, and you need to deliver the data, because this is what it shows them that you are working.
True.
If they see the numbers, and if the number sync between, for example, between CRM and the database, then they feel you are working. They don't care about whether you do automation, whether you sit the whole night and copy pasting the Excel sheet. They
Mm.
don't care.
But I mean, it's how should I say this? Engineers are lazy, right? So automation, thinking about every day, how can we automate this better to make ourselves more efficient. I think that is an important part that like you need to think about constantly. If it's a daily routine, I don't know, but I think that's something that is very important. It's difficult because most of the time you don't have the time or the manpower to actually do the automation because they're loading so much stuff on top of you, that you're in the, like you said, that you're in the hamster wheel.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I spend some time. When you start with a job, it is really difficult, and that too when you have a family, it is really difficult to think about learning something
Yeah.
continuously. That's why whenever you get time, you should try to like learn this low hanging fruits, something like Python automations, or like any other possibilities using AI agents nowadays and so on, so that when you have real problem, you don't need to research, spend some time on that. Just you can use what you learned outside of your job, then implement it in
Mm.
your job.
Yeah. I was thinking about on this first work I had. They have this Jupyter. It was a Zeppelin notebook because they have the Apache Hive ecosystem, and they have kind of a data quality check, but it was so awful and rudimentary that they run some cells and they say, well, if this number goes below this threshold, you had to write an email to to this person in the company and say this number is low, please check, or this
Uh,
data is not coming. Obviously, on weekends, no data, and you have to like go and make a backfill and ask for that backfill. So perhaps one day of that job was just writing emails, go to tackle some persons in the company and say, hey, there is no data on this, we need to backfill and see what happened there. And yeah, they also try to like implements these data quality tools like Great Expectations, for example. And and then I had a lot of problem because of the governance team. They didn't want to like upgrade the cluster with that. So they say, well, we need to automate this with this tool. I can't. And
mm.
it was a whole sprint like fighting back and forward with data management and governance team. And and yeah, also like testing, like sometimes they say, well, we need to test like the pipeline, I know the movement from one file from one bucket to another bucket. Let's say the file is in the new bucket, so what do you want me to test, like when the people is like super inside the software engineering mindset. It's like also difficult to plan and work with. It's funny.
Yeah. Here's a question from the audience. Do you guys deal with data contracts at all? It's become a bit of a buzzword.
Data contracts, yeah, in most of the projects or full-time jobs, no, not really. Yeah, when we using API, we use this REST API structure where we define, the columns to use there. And I have seen like when using Kafka, where you use this contracts to streamline and proper to receive proper streaming data. But yeah, it is like in one of the big companies where my friend works, he told they regulated everything for to work properly with other
Mm.
teams, because in like big enterprises, you can't ask every time a data engineer like what are all the columns here, why this is changed, why this is not changed. uh, so I just heard from one such guy. Yeah, they like streamlined everything, but in startups and mid scale, this is still kind of buzzword, in
Yeah,
my opinion.
I think so as well. I've heard this for, I don't know, 2 years there's one guy, I always forget the name, one guy on LinkedIn is always pushing like data contracts, data contracts. And I'm like, do we,
Isn't he Chad Sanderson?
yeah, I think
Uh,
so. I think so. Maybe I need to
I
invite him to a podcast to see what it's all about.
yeah,
Because like I
yeah.
don't know. I feel like what Arockia said, like if you have a good documentation, right? Do you then do you really need a data contract then for this kind of? I don't know.
Yeah, it is useful for this distributed systems, where a system doesn't get data that it did not expect. Yeah, but it is on highly critical cases because like data field is really dynamic. And when we often use this NoSQL database where we don't have this fixed schema.
Mm-hmm.
So like these kind of stuff, plus yeah, unless until we know the business exactly. So in case of freelancing, you are there with the customer for just a short period of time. As a freelance data engineer, you don't know the business properly, you don't have time to learn the business. So in that case, instead of concentrating on contracts, we prefer to build whatever they want, and the internal teams can use this template to define data contracts or to build
Mm.
stuff.
Yeah. And sometimes I feel like obviously it will depend on the maturity of the company, as you say, but sometimes depends on the sources. Um, when you are like producing the data, you are processing. You have like the team like handy for your team, and you can chat with them and say, hey, if you are going to change something, please notify us as soon as you, I know, you are adding a new column and or changing something else. But also, usually in my case, we make this kind of pre-processing. So you ingest the data perhaps in a raw bucket or file, and then you grab the columns, the data that you need from this this whole amount, like jumping into again design patterns that you have like a lake and then a medallion architecture like cleaning, and you can define schemas there. And I don't know you guys, but I use a lot Pydantic to create some schemas and validate data types and that with Pydantic. So I don't have the wide picture of the data contracts,
Mm.
but I don't know if they are kind of a must in data engineering. Like in every company, and as as we are talking the maturity of the company, it's super important.
Yeah, I think maturity of the company is the most important thing here, right? Even if it's a large corporation, like some corporations are still terrible with data.
Yeah, it's funny because sometimes even the stakeholders they don't know what to measure. Like they don't know how to define the KPIs.
Mm.
So that is usually another problem. Like trying to retrieve some data that it's like evolving every day because the KPIs are like changing. So that's it's difficult also to set up like a contract beforehand if you are changing like every day your KPIs or your metrics. It's uh,
But that's more a business problem, right? That
yeah,
sometimes we have to deal on a daily basis. That they try to modify stuff that is already set, like some KPIs.
Yeah, exactly. That's why the business knowledge for data engineers is really really important. This is what I found also from my experience, because sometimes stakeholder needs completely two different data sets, two different sources to be like combined together, which takes days for us, following governance and all these rules to give this unified data set. But still they would be asking these kind of numbers or reports. So if you have proper business knowledge, then you can explain to stakeholders in simple terms, not in like technical terms, in business terms or in real world terms, like, yeah, why this is difficult, how long does it take, and so on.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean it's a bit like the same thing for data scientists. There was a time when people called them unicorn data scientists, the scientists who knew basically machine learning and the maths and the domain. But like it's the same thing for engineers, and I don't know if we could call this anymore like unicorns. I think that's a standard right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. What else? I'm thinking. What else is something that like daily stuff? Daily stuff.
But like you pointing out on thinking out loud, like daily stuff, it you say that, Andreas, it will depend in which part of the life cycle of the data engineering you are.
Hmm.
Like I think that as an ETL developer, perhaps you already said that, but you have like more. I don't know how to put it in English, but you have more structured way of working, because it's like building the ETL and jumping data from here and transforming and loading in there, and it's perhaps more easy to schedule your days. But like going inside the business and dealing with soft skills daily,
Hmm.
it's never planned. It's like you have to uh, perhaps you know what are you going to talk about, and you can prepare some stuff on that, but then the conversation can go to a completely different way and approach and everything, and perhaps what you are going to talk, or you prepare, it's a way or long long away from the real problem and solution.
Hmm.
And I think there it's super difficult to like anticipate and yeah and deal with that. Uh, but also is the best part. I know we talk about that, like thinking and designing and going into the concepts and the conceptual like map on that, and review new tools and say, well, this I want to test this new tool, and we can put this in here and yeah, learn from that. It's super rewarding. Yeah.
That's true. Yeah. For me, like one thing that I'm when I think back, like as a team lead, one thing that I always had to do was like also check on the team, right? Are there some roadblocks that we need to solve? Is there something happening right now on somebody else's uh, tasks? Are there some problems with the discussions of the stakeholders and so on and so on? So there's also like that team planning was also because like I was on the other side with the sprints to figure out okay what are we going to do next time, and yeah, talking, making meetings, talking with them. Yeah, usually every I think we did this was it Friday or Monday. I switched it back. I think I switched it to Mondays. Um, I try to do this always once a week to just have a quick meeting and not daily stand-ups because I personally I don't like daily stand-ups. That's it. But that's something.
Yeah. So Andreas, I just read a
Hmm.
comment. It mentioned like if you have great soft skills, you get dragged into everything. Yeah, it is relatable. Yeah, it's kind of true, but it have its own pros and cons. The pro is you are gaining
Mm,
visibility.
true.
When you are good at soft skill, people notice you. But the drawback is, of course, stakeholders and others, they are going to ping you first whenever
Mm,
they see something in the data. Yeah, so you need to actually, it's an art of balance, how you don't burn yourself out in these ad hoc questions, at the same time just doing your work, and like getting this kind of visibility is always nice. This is how, as a data engineer, this is the only way, to be honest, I see. As a data engineer, you get into the into this management ladder or something like the senior positions.
Hmm. It's true. It's true. I mean, isn't this with every job? Not like the at some point when you wanna get into more senior positions, it's no longer the adding more technical skills to it, but adding more. I don't know if adding more soft skills is the right word for it, but like being more involved in the stuff that is not development, I would say.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah, sorry, Santiago.
no worries. Go.
Yeah, I was thinking about this like fan company roles. I think is in Google or Facebook. They have this different roles. I think it is in Google, L4, L5, and so on. So I recently read this, like the difference between L4 and L5 is, I'm not sure about the numbers. I'm just telling the content. Like one level should be able to work independently. So that is like senior data engineer, and the staff data engineer, for example, like he should be able to convey his thought process clearly to the team and get the work out
Yeah.
of the team. It is nothing but technical skills combined with a soft skill.
Hmm.
Sometimes they say it's no. At some point, it's no longer what you can do, but what you can get others to do. Right.
Yep.
That's the.
Yeah.
I think that's the phrase.
Yeah, yeah. In the company I'm working right now, we have like this. We have kind of three paths of getting in higher levels and positions. That you have like full technical mixture between managerial and technical, and full managerial, and yeah, it's like I don't know why they still use this kind of 0 to 5. I don't know anything. I know a bit, but I need supervision. I can work alone, but I need someone to correct me. I can work alone. I can work alone and explain others. Like they have this. Usually in the companies I have been working at, this matrix of knowledge to say if you are a 5, you can teach others, and if you are 4 you can work alone, but you need, well, and sometimes I wonder if I need to go more into the monarchical stuff. And I mean, I don't like that much because usually when you work with others and you need to push them to do some work, it's difficult because you have to consider like uh, the whole person, not just what you need to deliver.
Mm.
And I always struggle with that. Yeah, I empathize a lot with people, and it's kind of difficult. So I tend to go into the technical side and answer for my mistakes only. uh, but I mean, that is also good to have some knowledge on. There is one book, The Way of the Staff Engineering or something like that is the name, and it has a lot of good points on how to tackle this management stuff, and how to motivate your team. And also one thing that I was trying to recall is the knowledge sharing. That also is for me super important. You gain visibility with that also, but sometimes you get the tough questions also, because you kind of widespread the things that you read or you build. And I enjoy a lot of, like, the we have in my company right now, we have time, like every Wednesday we have a knowledge sharing slot from different, I know, Gen AI, MLOps, and that's awesome to have someone that is super into one topic, and go back with the team and say, hey, uh, I read this, I tried this, I built this, and this is the way or these are the problems I face, and yeah, it's super good.
Yeah, I mean, it's is it that you need to work on getting as much out of people, or is it more like when people have good goals, right? If they understand the goals and where we want to go, then that is not a big problem. I think the bigger problem is like if you need to motivate people, and if they feel they are in the like in that cycle where they're just doing work without really seeing some results, without understanding the goal. That is a big problem, I think. There is a comment. I'm going to read it. I'm not going to put it on here because it's so long, but I think it's a quite interesting comment. I just bombed my first data engineering technical interview. It was so embarrassing the way I failed. The ad was for a completely modern data stack, so I learned Snowpipe, practiced DBT, and was grinding hard on Strata Scratch. I don't know that I don't know. They ended up asking me to work with a SQLite project in the interview, and I completely forgot everything about SQLite since I only worked on it once last year. Is there any method to the madness when preparing for junior or junior/slash mid-level interviews? The scope can really be anything, and I have another interview coming up, but I feel all over the place.
Yeah, to be honest, it's really interesting, because in this case I never like start to learn the tools and technologies they mentioned in the job description. I start also he clearly mentioned it is for junior data engineering role. So what people would expect him is like to have a basic understanding on data engineering, something like data modeling. So like what is OLTP systems, OLAP systems, streaming batch pipelines, just the theory, and something like how you draw something like basic architecture, something like what is buffering part, storage part, and so on, and writing basic SQL queries. So I would make familiar with these concepts first. Then given enough time, I would read a bit summary or overview about the tools they specified in the job description. If I have more time, I would then try to do the projects on it and then go to the interview. So this is like my approach.
Yeah.
What do you think, Santiago?
Uh, Yeah, for myself, I need to spoil something, but I met Andreas, and I have this blueprint of data engineering from the academy, and from there, I started like building on top of that. I I enter like a deep into the fundamentals part with lambda, kappa, and go like deeper and deeper on that. Then understanding, as Arockia say, the data modeling, like basic concepts of dimensional data modeling, star schema, snowflake schema, and try to then put all together, building some projects. And in the long run, I believe that the tools are the same but with different names. So if you know in which part of the life cycle is the tool involved, you can answer the questions. It's like you don't have to because we know that the team of recruitment sometimes put this long list of things that they will never use, um, but they sounds great on the job description. So you need to like know uh, wh- which part of perhaps the role that you're going to deal with, and to yeah, what are you going to do, and there are plenty of tools for that, for sure. So it's impossible to go and learn everything, but just the concepts, the fundamental part.
Yeah, I think also these kind of things they test it because it's easy to test. They
Yeah.
it's a bit of a combination, like Arockia said, because they want to make sure that you have the fundamentals, but it's also easy to test you on these topics. There are tools, there are questionnaires, there are platforms that have this where you can easily test someone. And that's why they do these simple, either code something in Python or like, here's a SQL problem, solve it,
Yeah,
and write queries for it and so on. I think that's something people need to realize when they apply to jobs. It does it really make sense to like learn stuff so that you can recollect everything and use it, or is it more of, is it wouldn't it be more useful that people understand the patterns, that people understand how to behave in certain situations? Yes, but is it easy to test? No. Right.
yeah. But perhaps that's for more, perhaps more mid, advanced, and senior levels, because usually the new stuff or the features will come from them. You can test the way they kind of think. I was like hating the live coding, but then I understand that if you need to test the way someone is thinking about the problem, it's a really good way to do the whiteboarding or live coding session, because you can chat, you can like point something into the code, or when someone gets stuck, it's like daily life, you're going to be stuck with something, and you need to ask. And also this kind of interview simulates that you can like have a back and forward with your interviewer and say, hey, I think this is going this path, or I'm going to tackle this in with this approach, and blah blah blah. And then you can chat with the interviewer. I think it's also testing like the holistic part, like how you communicate, how you think, how you tackle something that you're facing for the first time. And it's I I get used to it. Also, I think it's another training part of the coding skills. Like you had to deal with this type of interviews. But obviously, it's different from juniors and mid level. I believe it's deeper on the fundamentals of data engineering, and this have this blueprint in mind, that in which part of the life cycle you are going to be, or what they are asking to you to do, or the answer will come in one of these steps. So you need to have the mind map, or in your head, and yeah,
Yeah.
and know from where to go.
Yeah, just adding my point here shortly, because this is what I did like 5 or 6 years back. I think Andrea's book is in like it's available for public for a long time. So during my one of my transitions, initially as from something like ETL developer to data engineer, I took this blueprint from Andreas, where he clearly mentioned like storage part, buffering part, processing part, so on. I tried to map the most common tools in the job descriptions into those categories. So I think this exercise is very good for junior level engineers. They don't need to do the complete architecture or like portfolio project initially if they don't have time. I would really recommend to take this blueprint and try to map services from different cloud providers into the life cycle. I mean, each blocks available there, then you will be getting like your initial knowledge, like, okay, this is used for buffering, so these are the tools used for processing and so on. This is something like a very good start, which I tried like long back, and it worked for me during the interviews.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, it still works. I think it's still relevant. We have new tools, but it's always the same thing. If somebody wonders like where is this, you can just go to learndataengineering.com, where we have the academy, where of course, in the platform and pipeline design course of the academy is also the blueprint where the coaching is that we three do. That is starting next week, the new one. And when you scroll down here, there's actually, I had this free skills and tools guide that you can download here now. And that has also the blueprint in it and is also um, that also has this overview of, okay, these are the parts in the blueprints, and these are tools on AWS, tools on Azure, tools on GCP, and open source, and so on, where you see exactly that, and that is here. Yeah. Again, you can learn more in the academy and in the coaching program directly from us, one-to-one, giving you help. Yeah, guys. Let's finish up for today. We're back next week. Maybe we talk a bit about patterns next week. Let's see. And then, yeah, thank you. Hope we have
Thank you,
fun.
guys. See you next week again.
Yeah. And give
Thank
guys,
you.
for everybody who's here, give them a follow as well. I think you're tagged. And yeah, have an awesome day. Thanks, guys.